Hello everyone, welcome to my yet another exciting lecture. I'm Dr. Rakhi Gupta. Welcome to my lecture series of Managing Human Resource or Human Resource Management. Before I delve into the new topic today, my dear friends, I'll give you the gist of as to what we did in the last one. If you all remember, we spoke a lot of things related with team building, the concept, the stages, the importance, and so on and so forth. Now, the topic that I'm going to cover today is a very pertinent topic, which is very important in all the organization, irrespective of whichever company you belong to. The topic that I'm going to talk about today is related with discipline. So let's go and check out what is there in discipline for you. As you can see on the screen, discipline is nothing but it's just the regulation and modulation of human activities to produce a controlled performance. Now, my dear friends, we know that in any organization, we are aiming at three things, if you remember. Let me reiterate it. That is the profitability, the productivity, and of course, the performance. So all these three things, we will be able to achieve it once we are disciplined. So basically, what is the meaning of discipline? Discipline is nothing, but it's just the adherence to the rules and regulations that have been framed by the management. And whenever the rules and regulations they are framed, they are of course meant to be followed. And once we follow the rule and regulation, so naturally we will not be away from the attainment of the predetermined goals of the company. So employee discipline is nothing but at workplace, it can be defined as the adherence. The word adherence is important to the company's policies, rules and regulation and processes laid down by the management. As rightly said by Jim John, discipline is the bridge between the goals and accomplishment. Why are we talking about the bridging between the goals and accomplishment? Because once we are disciplined, only then we are focused, we are loyal, we are committed, and naturally the productivity will definitely go up, and that is what we are actually aiming at. So these are the different definitions that have been given on the screen that you can see. For example, you can already read it. Just to read out one, according to Richard D. Calhoun, discipline may be considered as a force that prompts individuals or groups to observe the rules and procedures which are deemed to be necessary for the effective functioning of the organization. So when we are talking about the effective functioning of the organization, again we are reiterating that we are only focusing on three P's. If you remember, let me put it again to you, that is the profitability, the productivity, and of course the performance. So all these three P's are interlinked with each other. So of course once we adhere, so definitely we will be able to attain them. Then again, for example, another definitions have been given. For example, in the opinion of Ordway Dead, discipline is the order members of an organization who adhere to its necessary regulations. Why are we talking about necessary? Because these are actually framed by the management. Because they desire to cooperate harmoniously in forwarding the end which the group has in view. So definitely the view is nothing but it's just the attainment of the organizational objectives. So let's proceed and check out what are the objectives. Why are we talking about discipline so much? So of course there are a few points which have to be kept in mind when we talk about the discipline. So why are we focusing so much on discipline? And of course as an HR professional, they are very particular that the discipline of the organization is maintained properly. Because at any point of time, if there's any act of misconduct or any act of indiscipline, that would definitely hamper the peace and democracy of the entire organization. And I'm sure no management would relish it. So let's check out the objectives of discipline. So the first one is the related with the compliance with the rules and regulation. So once we're talking about the compliance with the rules and regulation, naturally we are looking forward for the rules that have been drafted by the management. So these rules, they can be related with the hiring process, they can be related with promotion, they can be related with transfers, they can be related with compensation, they can be related with VRS, so on and so forth. So if we are able to follow that, of course it is very good for the organization. Then maintaining the TRS, this is one of my favorite three words that I have continuously used in my own book also, that is the trust, respect and support. So why are we talking about TRS? Because once we obey each other, we are able to command that kind of respect also from people, we become more trustworthy, we become more loyal, we become more committed, and naturally once all these two things are intact, naturally the support that we expect from the management is not far away. Then improve the performance of an employee. Now, when we are talking about the performance of an employee, we know that discipline for any poor task performance should not be applied when employees are on training or learning the job. So it says that we should be very, very careful that we aim at the performance of the employee, but not putting the person down in any regard. The main purpose is not to make the person feel humiliated or harassed or feel bad, but of course the main objective is to improve the performance. So definitely discipline should be exercised when employees are found responsible for unsatisfactory performance. So if people are performing properly, then definitely we do not require any kind of disciplinary action against them. Then the fourth one is the accomplishment of the goal. Naturally, discipline is maintained by any organization with the aim to obtain a willing acceptance to the rules and regulations, procedures of the organization, so that the organizational objectives can be attained. In fact, all efforts that are directed towards the maintenance of discipline must end up with the accomplishment of the goals. In case if it is not done, then the imposition of discipline will be of no benefit. Then change in the employee behavior. Now, organizations, my dear friends, they actually aim at bringing in the desired behavior among the employees through discipline. So, the existence of the discipline policy can help the employees check their behavior against the standards and develop a spirit of tolerance and a desire to make adjustments and changes in their behavior if it is necessary. So, definitely the aim is to have a check on their behavior too. Then is to reduce the supervision. Employee discipline actually aims at close supervision in the organization. Discipline system and policies develop self-confidence among the employees, which in turn eliminate the necessity of closely supervising the performance and behavior of the employees. Therefore, my dear friends, in any organization, it is important that we should aim at bringing the cost of supervision without compromising on its quality, and it is only possible when people are disciplined. Next, to enhance the morale and motivation, just to reiterate myself, let me make it very clear, there are people who at times they get confused between the concepts of motivation and morale. Motivation is basically an individual concept, whereas morale happens to be a group concept. So it is the individual that make up the group and it is the group that makes up the organization. So naturally, when discipline is implemented in a proper way, it will definitely facilitate the individual motivation, and once people are motivated, the entire group gets motivated too, or in other words, we can say the morale of the team or the group is very high. And I should tell you, we have already done it earlier in our previous lectures, that there is a close relationship between the morale and the productivity. So definitely we cannot compromise with productivity at any cost. And lastly, to exercise better control over employees. One of the main objectives of discipline is to supplement the efforts of managers and supervisors to exercise effective control over subordinates. So, what happens is, my dear friends, that since the authority, they take up the disciplinary action, and of course the right is vested with the supervisors and the management. So, what happens is that it actually creates a fear in the minds of the employees and forces them to comply with the instructions of their supervisors. So, if the instructions are followed properly, so naturally the people are controlled properly, and once people are controlled properly, naturally we are chasing our dreams. So basically what happens is there are three types of discipline. There is positive, negative and progressive discipline. So in the case of discipline, times we are again what we are aiming is that we want perfect obedience from our people, adherence to the rules and regulations, some order to be maintained, fair and equitable treatment to all, work and recognition, lot of things are there. So when we talk about the positive discipline, so positive discipline is a concept where we are taking people in a way that they are positively motivated to work hard. Maybe in terms of their performance, they are given some kind of recognition, and they are self-driven people. They are happy and satisfied with the policies of the company, and they feel that if they are given proper way of doing their things, so naturally they will be rewarded in some way or the other. So basically what happens is that this type of discipline is the best, and it is more constructive or a self-discipline, as I told you. And people are again motivated to follow the rules and regulation and procedures as made by the company. So in positive discipline, there is always a willingness. What we can say is there is a word which says that there is always a willingness to comply that comes from the desire to cooperate in achieving the common goal of the organization. Let's proceed with this, and then we have the negative one also. As you can see on the screen, that this is the best part. Here the word itself, discipline, is very important. People are self-motivated, and naturally it takes place in the situation where people are motivated and they feel that if they do anything good, so naturally it will be the reward and recognition that will be given to them. And rewards and recognition, they are nothing but they are just a great motivator to perform better in coming times. So positive discipline is something where people are self-driven, they are very happy, they are very satisfied, they are ready to exert higher levels of their effort, because they know whatever they achieve in life or whatever targets they are able to attain, some way or the other, those efforts, they will be recognized. Then positive discipline basically helps them to mold their behavior in the sense the way they are behaving at the workplace. So naturally, the way they behave in the workplace, it has to be very conducive. The way you deal with your superiors, the way you deal with your subordinates, the way you deal with the other stakeholders or maybe with your colleagues, it has a great impact. So discipline is something, you know, where people, they feel from within that, okay, I should be very disciplined. So there are a lot of people, just for an example, there are people, they are very self-disciplined, and they feel that even if I'm going at 2 in the morning, I should follow the traffic rules. So that is a kind of a self-discipline that people actually aim at. Then in positive discipline, there's a willingness to comply that comes from desire to cooperate in achieving the common goals of the company. The emphasis here is on the cooperative efforts. Now, what is the meaning of cooperative efforts? We are actually trying to channelize the energies of each one in the organization. There is proper coordination, that is, we are trying to blend the efforts of everyone in such a way that the goals of the companies, they are attained. Then there are certain prerequisites that need to be fulfilled. For example, a motive is to help the employees. I told you initially also, the main purpose is not to humiliate the employees, but of course to help them, to motivate them to perform better. Then rules and regulations are very clear. Now this is very essential. If we are looking forward for the positive discipline, the rules should be very clear in the minds of the employees. So they should know what is expected out of them, only then they will behave in that manner. Third, performance should, standards are set and there is clarity. Clarity in terms of everything. Clarity in terms of your roles, clarity in terms of rules and regulation, procedures, so on and so forth. Then there's a proper delegation of responsibility and self-discipline of it following it. So naturally, if people, they know what kind of responsibility I'm supposed to delegate, only then they know how to work properly. Then different methods of discipline are adopted for difference in personality of people. Now what happens is, like, every individual is a different individual and every individual has to be dealt in a different manner. So we cannot have any tailor-made solution for everyone. So it's more like a situational attribute that we talk about. So for example, there are people who get motivated by money. There are people who get motivated by a simple pat on their back. So is the case in the case of discipline also. So ideally, if you happen to be a manager or a supervisor, the main purpose is to identify the personality trait of the individuals or the employees and then take action. And then an employee gains sense of security when he knows how far he can go and what are the limits or what kind of help he is expecting from others. So positive, how we can do it? Like, for example, we can give compliments. So it's not necessary that you are giving compliment. Compliments, they automatically come from within. If supposing someone is wearing a nice dress, or maybe the person has put in good effort, or maybe the person has attained something. So compliments, they actually come naturally to people. So one of the ways of boosting up the positive discipline is by giving small little compliments to people. Then we can have some kind of family meetings, or maybe that kind of bringing people together, or maybe having the problem solving. So discipline can be maintained at any level. It can be at individual level, it can be at the group level, it can be organizational level, it can be in the personal front also. So whatever front you are practicing discipline, there has to be kind of some positivity around you that should be there, so that people feel happy and satisfied and they are eager to exert higher level of their performances. Now let me come to the second kind of discipline. Now, this type of negative discipline, the word itself is telling us that there is some kind of fear. Out of that fear factor, people are going to follow the rules and regulation. Whereas in the case of positive, it was something very natural. Very naturally, people are happy to follow the rules and regulation. There's nobody, there's no duress, there's no compulsion on them to follow the rules and regulation. But in the case of negative, there is a word which is of paramount importance, and that word is fear. So out of fear, people will do everything, whether it is the attainment of the task, whether it is a change in behavior, whether it is to be shown in the action, or it is to be shown in the processes, anywhere. So that word fear is very, very important. So here it says that this is more or less here, the word fear is very important, and here it says that this is also known as the corrective discipline or punitive discipline. The punishments are actually given to people if they do not follow the rules and regulation, or if people are doing any kind of misconduct or indiscipline. So naturally the penalties they have to be faced by them. So when the employees, they do not follow the rules and regulation procedures in the organization, they are forced to stay under the rules. That means, how are they forced? With the help of punishments. So for example, if you are late for an organization, there may be another kind of penalties can be given. For example, the oral warnings can be given to you. But for example, if you steal the confidential data of the company, then naturally it's an act of indiscipline. Then severe action would be taken against you, and that action can go up to the extent of termination also. So in this kind of discipline, people are forcibly made to adhere to the rules. That is again the fear factor. There are punitive measures initiated against the people who do not follow the rules and are involved in the indiscipline activities. So mind it, if you are doing any kind of indiscipline activities, then surely you have to bear the brunt of the penalties. Then, as I told you, there's a fear factor, as you can see on the screen also, that there's a fear factor in the minds of people, and this kind of approach is generally ineffective, but people are dealt in different manner. Reason why? Because every individual is a different personality, and each one of they have their different traits, so people have to be dealt differently. Then negative discipline helps in extracting only the standard performance from the employees. They always feel demoralized with this kind of discipline. So there's no other way out. No, there are people who are happy and satisfied and motivated, so that naturally they will be following the discipline. But such kind of people, they are reluctant, they are obstinate not to follow the rules and regulation, but because of that big fear factor in their minds, they will follow them. Punishments, penalties, demotion, warnings, transfers are some of the ways of getting work done by the employee. So you can see all these things, they are having a negative connotation. So naturally at times people, they know that in case if they do something wrong, naturally they have to fear the or they have to bear the brunt of their actions. Then the approaches are this, like fear, punishments for the acts of discipline, punishment on the basis of the gravity of discipline. Now, what is the meaning of gravity of discipline, my dear friends? Gravity means the kind of crime or the kind of indisciplined act that you have committed. As I told you, for example, if you're continuously coming late, then the oral warning can be given to you. But for example, if you steal the documents of the company or the confidential data, then naturally the gravity is very, very huge. Then in that case, you may be suspended or you may be terminated. Then there's a dealing of misconduct. So I'll be discussing about this misconduct in my next lectures also, to give you a better idea what are the activities that fall under the case of misconduct. Now, progressive discipline is another kind of new kind of discipline that you might be hearing. But progressive discipline is a system that uses increasingly severe disciplinary actions to correct the employee's performance or behavior. So as the word itself is telling us, progressive, that means we are moving slowly and slowly, and the main purpose of any kind of progressive discipline is to improve the performance or modify the behavior, but not to punish the employee. In the negative discipline, as we discussed earlier, the main purpose was to punish the employee so that the person can actually improve their behavior. So this is more a kind of a liberal in nature, and it progresses sequentially, chronologically and systematically through a prescribed series of steps. These steps are oral reprimand, then the written, then the second written warning, temporary suspension and dismissal. So you can see the hierarchy which is being followed. For example, if you have done anything, not done anything very severe. So in that case, the company can start off with the oral warnings. But again, if you've been repeating those things or repeating those activities of misconduct, then in that case, the company can go on for the written warning. Again, if you're not improving yourself, then again, the company can go on with the another step. And then again another step, then the again severe step. So this is a progressive discipline. The company doesn't take the very, very extreme steps at the initial stage, but slowly and gradually the company is compelled because of the attitude or behavior of the employee, to go on increasing the severity of the penalties that they impose. If an employee continues to underperform after a less than stellar performance review, it's normal for progressive discipline step to enter the picture. That means slowly and gradually the company is giving a lot of time to improvise, the company is giving a lot of time to think over, but still if you are not improving, then slowly and slowly the company is going to take tougher and tougher penalties against you. In other words, progressive discipline process is what establishes and maintain order and performance standards of the organization. Without it, employees' action will have no consequences and behavior performance issues are sure to follow. So naturally, people, they know that, for example, if the company identifies that, okay, you have committed a very, very grave crime or something like that, then the company knows that, okay, severe action has to be taken, the termination is the only option. But supposing if you're doing anything which is not that very severe, and then company feels, okay, let's give some time to the employee for the improvement, then in that case, the company can start off with the progressive discipline. So basically, progressive discipline is based on the principle of using least severe action that is necessary. So naturally, in the first stage, the company will not be using the severe action against the employees. The steps, as I told you, it will all continue from the oral reprimanding to the dismissal, depending upon the kind of activities that have been done by the employee. Then the exact disciplinary measures taken depends on the severity and the frequency. So if the frequency of any event that you are doing, it's too high, then naturally the company is forced to take tougher actions against the company. So as I told you, that progressive discipline is actually entitled not to punish the employee, but to bring about a change in the behavior of the people. So progressive discipline actually can help management communicate their problems to the employees in a clear and a timely manner, or maybe provide employees with an opportunity to correct their own issues, or even if they encourage improvement in the performance and behavior, or provide a guided approach to the people. So my dear students, we know that the exact disciplinary measures taken depends upon the severity and the frequency of the issues, as well as the company's rules and procedures. So in the case of progressive discipline, the main purpose is not to punish the employee, but to bring about a change in the behavior pattern of the person. So naturally, what happens is that it's always permissible to go straight to the employees, or what happens is, in the case of progressive discipline, it can help management also in some ways. For example, one can communicate problems to the employees in a very, very clear and a timely manner, or provide employees with an opportunity to correct their own issues, or encourage improvements in the performance and behavior, or provide a guided approach to engaging in difficult conversation. And what happens here also, as I told you, please mind it, the main purpose is not to punish. But in the case of negative discipline, if you remember, the main purpose was to punish the person because they were not ready to follow the rules and regulation. So here the word natural justice is also very important. For example, that they comply with the principle of natural justice. Now, for effective discipline in an organization, there are certain principles that should also be followed in the case of progressive discipline. For example, discipline should be very, very constructive. That means the main purpose is not to humiliate the person or to punish, please mind it. Then there can be different punishments for different acts. There has to be some kind of clarity on the rules and regulation or policies and the procedures. Each discipline case is a different case which has to be dealt in a different manner. As I told you that the people are of different personality traits, they have to be tackled in a different way. And what happens is, my dear friends, in the case of progressive discipline also, as I told you, we are moving step by step. So it's not that we have to ensure that no innocent employee gets reprimanded without any reason or without any fault, and no one is let out spared also. For example, if one has actually committed a mistake, the person is walking out free, and the person who did not commit any kind of mistake, the person is, the action is quite different. So in the case of discipline also, there's a concept of a show cause notice also. So as I told you, that the disciplinary action depends upon the severity and the frequency of the kind of misconduct that has been conducted by the employees. So there's always a show cause notice that is given by the management to the people, so that it's an opportunity given to the employees to put in or put forward their views also, or to bring out the real information, because at times they can can be some kind of hearsay, and there can be some kind of gossip. So in order to delve deep down into the issues, a show cause notice is always served to the people, and then the opportunity is given to the aggrieved employee to put forward his or her views on that issue. So in the case of the progressive discipline, as I told you, the show cause notice is given, the opportunity is always given, and the main purpose is not to insult the employee in the presence of others, but of course to bring about a change in the behavior pattern. And naturally, the timings is very important. We have to ensure the timing as to when we have to give the oral warning, when we have to give the written warning, once we have to do the suspension or termination, again depending upon the gravity of the offense. And any kind of disciplinary measures which are taken by the management, they should be sufficiently served to meet the situation. The act should be in concurrence with that only. And naturally, we know that if any mistake has been done, it is better to admit it rather than to beat behind the bush. So if an employee admits that kind of mistake, then of course the lesser severe penalties can be imposed upon the person. So progressive discipline is one discipline which is actually practiced in the normal organizations. And naturally, we know that any kind of action which is taken against any employee, it serves as a lesson for others not to follow the same. Then as you can see on the screen, my dear friends, it's again as I was discussing about the progressive discipline. As I told you, it's a step-by-step movement. So in the step is, the first one is the verbal warning. So for example, if you're coming consistently, you're coming late, the oral warning can be given to you, or a verbal warning can be given to you. As you can see, the supervisor meets with the employees to discuss the behavior and consequences of the future occurrences. So this is not only related with the coming late, or for example, if an employee has committed anything and the person feels that, okay, I need to discuss it with people, why am I misbehaving, or why my nature is changing, whatever, then of course the oral warning can be given by the management or by the supervisor. And as I told you that it is one of the ways by which we are trying to bring about the changes in the behavior pattern of the employees, and it is an opportunity to communicate the problems. The employees, they can communicate their problems to the management in a very, very clear, crystal way. Then supposing if the employee is not following the instructions in spite of giving the verbal warnings, then in that case some kind of written warnings can be given to them. For example, it can be individual, or it can be group, or it can be number of people. So here the supervisor completes a written form that describes the behavior problem and the consequences of future events. So one thing that you have to bear in mind is that in the case of discipline, as I told you, the word fear is very important. So whether it is the negative kind of discipline, or whether it is a kind of a progressive discipline, the word fear is important. So even if the written warnings are being administered by the management to the employee, so they know that in case if I do not do this, then what would be the repercussion or the future outcome. Then the third one is, like, again, if the person is not improving, then there can be something which is known as the suspension. The suspension letters can be there. The person can be suspended for some time, or maybe for a longer period of time. It all depends upon the kind of gravity of offense the person has actually committed. And then lastly, again, if the person is not improving, or maybe the act of indiscipline or misconduct is so grave that there is no other option but to dismiss or terminate the employee. So this is probably the most extreme step that can be actually taken by the management. And here the employment relationship is actually terminated, and there is no further contact of the person. So this was all related with the progressive discipline. So in a nutshell, what we can say in our today's lecture, we have just discussed as to what is the meaning of discipline and what is the importance or what is the objective that it actually serves. The main objective of any kind of discipline is to bring about a change in the behavior pattern and of course the actions. Primarily, there are three kinds of discipline that we discuss. It's the positive, negative and the progressive. So positive discipline is one of the best kind of discipline that any employee can practice in an organization. Negative discipline comes because of the fear factor, because they know that in case if I do not follow the rules and regulation related to any aspect of the company's profile or procedure, then definitely a strict action would be taken. Whereas in the case of the progressive discipline, where we talked about that the main purpose is not to punish the employees but to bring about a change in the behavior pattern, and slowly and gradually the severity of the punishments go up. So naturally it can be the oral warnings that can be served to the employee in the first instance, then there can be some kind of written warning. warnings, and even if the person doesn't improve over the period of time in spite of being given a lot of opportunity also, then in that case the suspension letters can be given, or even if suspension letters they do not work, then ultimately the company has no other alternative just to expel the employee from the organization, and that is what is known as the termination, where actually the relationship between the employer and the employee comes to an end. So anyone who's watching this video, be very, very careful not to commit any kind of indiscipline act in any of the companies, because every indiscipline act will come with some kind of penalty, and the brunt of the penalty has to be borne by the individual only. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more concepts of discipline in my next one. Thank you so much.